It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for June 30th, 2023 for the next hour or so. Let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Blade Runner is getting its first new game in 25 years, and arcade sports have come back to football. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Timur Hussein, everybody. Tam, how are you doing?
I am doing okay,
Yes.
My mic wasn't muted.
Well, okay.
I remembered the WWF wrestler test.
Yes, you're on a roll.
So I'm having, and it is Dregs Day.
It is Dregs Day.
We're going to see what Dregs Day brings to us. I've been getting into wrestling a lot recently again. I obviously had like most people on Earth that are interested in cool things. I had an intense phase of loving wrestling.
I started watching some WCW Monday Night Nitro last night from like 1990, like late, maybe early 97 is actually what it is.
Nice.
It was actually very good episode, although a ton went wrong. The power went out at one point and stuff like that. It was fun. But
yeah.
What when you say you've been getting into wrestling, what are you doing?
I haven't actually watched wrestling. Like I used to watch wrestling intensely back in the day. Like I would consume. I watched WCW, WWF. WCW was the one I had the most access to because it was available on British terrestrial TV, whereas WWF was on like paid for cable TV.
Right.
So I didn't have much access to that, but I used to watch I used to have a friend who did have access to it, tape the pay-per-views for me. So I'd watch a lot of that. More recently, I've been consuming wrestling by way of video essays. Like
that's a totally fair way to get it. Yeah.
So our good friend John, aka Super Eye Patch Wolf, who's one of the hosts on Jet's Bizarre Adventure and has also been on our own wrestling podcast.
That's right.
Did an hour and a half long video about what's his name again? No, I was going to say Batista. What's his name from The Shield?
Roman Reigns? Or?
Roman Reigns,
yes.
Yeah. My brain was like Randy Orton.
Randy Orton. All wrestlers look alike, yeah.
It's not Randy Orton. Roman Reigns, and that video was fascinating. I missed the whole Shield thing. Mm-hmm. I know of them, but I didn't remember that I didn't know that it was kind of like Roman Reigns's entry point into becoming the new face of the WWE.
Yes.
And like that whole thing was really, really good. And then I went back and watched John's video on The Undertaker and his retirement match, which was also incredibly good. So I've been mostly consuming wrestling stuff through documentary things, and I obviously watch clips of This Is Awesome, which is Greg Miller's show.
Yes, that's good too.
And that kind of stuff. And I've been flirting with getting into the Japanese stuff just because I hear that it's much easier to get into and consume than a lot of the WWE stuff.
Yeah, their storytelling is very much like this person thinks they're the best and they want to beat the best, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, and that's very nice compared to some of the storytelling in American wrestling and Western wrestling that can get very convoluted and stupid.
Yeah, I think Jan has been saying like we're going to try and go and watch a show at some point.
There's some good shows that come through your parts of the woods. Yeah, so, that you could have some fun there. Yeah.
I'm excited to that. It's weird. I feel like I'm not devolving, but like I'm going back to my teenage days. I've recently started like picking up Magic again as well. And I'm thinking about wrestling again, and the rest of it hasn't really changed. I still play video games, read comics, and watch anime. So I'm just reinstalling my old modules.
It's a perfect life. You got it nailed down for sure. Jan in chat did say you would be our Orange Cassidy. You probably are not aware of. Do you know Orange Cassidy?
I remember Orange Cassidy.
I think this is completely correct. Yes, you would 100% be our too cool for school Orange Cassidy. I like that.
I always aspired to be more of a Doink the Clown.
Sure, I mean, who doesn't? Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, every kid dreams of being Doink the Clown. All right, let's get to this show. Before we do, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on GiantBomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with some drags. Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth, announced by Annapurna Interactive. This comes from Toussaint Egan at Polygon. The world of Blade Runner is about to get bigger. Publisher Annapurna Interactive showed off the first glimpse at Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth, a new video game set in the dystopian world of Ridley Scott's 1982 film, during the publisher's online showcase on Thursday. The first new Blade Runner game in over 25 years, Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth, will be developed by Annapurna Interactive's own in-house studio, led by game director Chelsea Hash, who previously worked on such games as Solar Ash, What Remains of Edith Finch, and Radiohead's interactive exploration game Kid Amnesia, which is that exhibition game. A few other details are known about the upcoming game, though there are some key story details that can be inferred from the game's title. Blade Runner 2033 will take place between the events of the first movie, which took place in 2021, and the second one takes place in 2049. Tim, did you get a chance to look at this? I guess I'm a Blade Runner fan. I enjoy both movies. That it's not as like holy to me as a lot of other like 80s sci-fi stuff, but I still really enjoy it. I love the world, and that's all the trailer kind of set up.
First and foremost, my question is, who is Annapurna, and how does she have all this money that she's publishing all these games?
Someone should investigate.
That's what I want to know. Someone needs to investigate that.
Secondly, the Purna Empire. She's the heir to the Purna Empire.
What is the Purna? Is this oil money that she has?
Oil money.
We must know the secrets
brand,
of Anna.
Yeah.
Is she the heiress of the Purina Empire?
Yeah, exactly.
Annapurna, and she's just like trying to get. We'll find you, Anna. We'll find you. Secondly, I love Blade Runner. This gave us nothing. I don't know. They showed off the world. It looked like they had some very dark places with neon lights. Seems like it had the machine. I forgot what it's called now to find replicants or whatever it is. I forgot what it was called.
I just want to call it the Higgs boson, but that's not right anymore.
It's not what it's called.
No, that's not Void Kampf. There we go.
Void Kampf.
I got the hyphen correct. I got the hyphen right.
Yeah. It had that by the looks of it. And that's about it. I will say, I'm trying to think about the non-main movie. I keep wanting to say Cyberpunk, Blade Runner stuff, and the quality of that. I know there's a comic book series which is pretty well liked and well done, but beyond that, is there anything else? Isn't there another game? I think there might be another game.
Yes. So 25 years ago, there was the game from Westwood Studios, a point-and-click adventure. That's the one that
was good,
and that was very good. What it does very good, Tam, is have dark places for your character to sit with neon lights around him. It's like that's my favorite part of that game. Is like going to his condo, his apartment, and using the computer to go enhance while space jazz plays and it rains out in L.A. Like that's what I like about Blade Runner. That's what the original game captured. It looks like that's what they're going for here. So I'm mostly on board, even though who knows what it plays like.
Yeah, we don't know. So the lesson to be learned here is, I think that if you're publishing or developing a game based on a very well-known property, you need to, in your first instance of showing or revealing the game, show off the gameplay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just create room for people to think the worst of it, because that's all we have been trained to expect. And I feel like you do yourself a disservice that I don't know if they deserve it, but I went from Blade Runner to they showed me nothing. This is going to be shit. Probably I don't care anymore. And I think it might sound unfair, but I think it's very fair for people to look at your thing and unless you show gameplay, write it off immediately.
We have finite time.
Yeah, we have finite time, and there's been a longer history and more precedent of licensed games being bad than there is of being good. I think one of the kind of exceptions to this rule was a game that did it well was, I think, John Wick. Pretty much immediately, the Bithell Games one, pretty much immediately showed us gameplay. And I was like, okay, at least I know what they're going for here. And it looks interesting enough for me to pay attention to it. This was like, hey, we're making a Blade Runner game. It looks like Blade Runner. Goodbye. It's like, okay, you're probably going to make a shit Blade Runner game then.
Yep.
Give me something more than that. Like I said, I know that sounds unfair, and it probably is unfair. This team seems like they know what they're doing. So, but like a fun until you show me something better, like and something tangible, substantial, I'm just going to assume the worst.
Yeah, it's I think it's a default position that a lot of people could fall into of I am going to deliberately ignore this thing until you give me a reason to care. I think it's both fair and unfair. I mean, I think it's fair for your use of your time and your money and the brain power. Like, there's things that you can go play right now. Go worry about that instead. And I think that's completely fair. Of course, when we're trying to assess these games and their value or whatever, I suppose that could pass off as a judgment before we get a chance to play it. That's not really what it is. We're just filing it away until you give us reason to care, I think. So, yeah. The game does not have a release date. Nothing was announced there. It will be available on PC and console, though. So I guess that's something. We will almost certainly hear more about this game at some point. Who knows when? All right, up next, Katamari Damacy's creator's new game is about a T-posing teenager. This comes from Isaiah Colbert at Kotaku. During Annapurna Interactive Showcase on Thursday, we got a look at Katamari Damacy creator Keita Takahashi's fun-looking new puzzle game about a child perpetually stuck in a T-pose. To a T, developed by Uvula LLC, Takahashi's new indie video game studio, is a 3D puzzle adventure game about a teenager literally called Teen trying to fit into the placid lifestyle of his quaint seaside town. The only problem is Teen always has his arms completely outstretched like the default pose of a video game character. Tam, I love the sound of this.
This is fantastic.
Got the music playing. Sorry about that, everybody. There you go.
This is incredible.
Yes, this is the wrong button too. Yeah, this is a really good idea. I love this, Tam. Yeah, what like struck you about it?
I mean, it's that classic. It is in the ilk of the kind of weird, oh, you're just a thing trying to get by in normal life, like Octodad or whatever it may be, which doesn't always hit with me, and I find that they have very limited mileage. Like, I'm like, haha, this is great, and then an hour later I'm like, haha, I'm done. Later.
Sure.
So it's I'm waiting to see how long, and it will be interesting to me. But I trust Keita Takahashi and his kind of quirky design ideas, and as a concept, is pretty funny. Like, it's something that we know everyone who's interested in games and knows stuff about games probably has a touchstone for the T-pose, and it's the right kind of funny like inside joke meets actually potentially interesting period of life where you can analyze the awkwardness of being a teenager through the lens of constantly T-posing, and you can substitute constantly T-posing for, being a teenager and not really knowing not right from wrong, but like not really knowing how to fit in, and being a bit of always feeling like you're not quite right, you're not quite doing right, you don't look right, you feel a bit off, and that having that represented as a T-pose is like it. I look at this and I'm like, there's a very good chance that it could end with us being like really moved and really kind of like heartfelt look at being a teenager through this fun dumb goof. I hope so anyway.
I completely agree. That's my hope for this. I think the Octodad touchstone there is a very good one. That's the one that I found Octodad to be very moving when I played that. Yeah. Because it's like, man, yeah, you could feel
as a dad with many limbs.
Yes, exactly. With many hidden limbs, everybody. Oof. It's easy to feel like a fraud all the time, and I think that Octodad did a good job of metaphorizing that into gameplay in a way that was really strong. This is an equally strong proposition. Like you said, a teen trying to fit in, and he just literally is this weird shape, that stands out, and the idea of pulling it from T-posing from video games. You're right. I totally hits for me. You're like, just immediately, I get what they're going for. You're right. Who knows how long it'll work, but if it's a few hours long and the characters have a good arc, I'm gonna be in for it. So Keita Takahashi. I remember when I first started hearing about Katamari Damacy, just being like, okay, I'll check this out, and then falling in love when I finally got my hands on it. So yeah, let's go.
And the trailer is really good. It's got like a good sense of humor,
Yes.
and it's got a cute dog in it, and I don't know, there's something really charming about it.
Yeah,
So
the character.
I'm
I think the
excited.
character art looks really good too. Like there's some good looking characters in here.
It reminds me a little bit of like the expressiveness of Wind Waker, where it's
Yeah,
very
yeah, I see what
simple,
you mean, yeah.
in terms of like facial expressions. And there's a bit where like the character spins so fast that it becomes like airborne and stuff, which is really dumb. And you're like, okay, cool, this is good.
There's like almost like a printed quality to the look of stuff, because there's like some dithering on the characters, like a comic in a newspaper or something like that. I don't know. It looks very good.
Yeah.
All right.
And there's the teacher, the giraffe teacher, that has to like bend over to be in the picture.
Yes,
which is very funny.
All good stuff. Yes, I'm excited about this one. All right. New NFL video game announced, launching a few weeks after Madden. This comes from Mark Delaney at GameSpot. Football fans are well versed in EA's long-held NFL exclusivity deal, helping Madden to be the only NFL simulation game on the market for nearly 20 years now. Jesus, it really has been that long, and with no end in sight. But that deal doesn't cover other football games, even those using, active NFL players, such as the newly announced Wild Card Football, starring Colin Kaepernick and a host of active players such as Nick Chubb, T.J. Watt, and Aaron Donald. Wildcard Football is in everything but name the football analog to Saber Interactive's NBA Playgrounds and NFL Battlegrounds. It's even billed as being part of the Playground Sports franchise, making it the third sports entertainment brand to get the arcade gameplay treatment from Saber. Wildcard Football takes advantage of an NFLPA licensing deal, but not the league itself, so real team names and logos won't be featured. Still, the game boasts hundreds of NFL players on its roster, and it's up to players to form their own rosters, backyard sports style. With hundreds more to be revealed later, the team did name drop several NFL stars already. In addition to Colin Kaepernick, there's Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Jefferson, T.J. Watt, Joey Bosa, Jamar Chase, and Aaron Donald. Tim, I'm a big fan of arcade sports games. I like a lot of different sports games, but I definitely particularly have an affinity for arcade style sports games. They seem to always be bubbling back up and then getting knocked back down. This is the team that did NBA Playgrounds, games that I didn't necessarily love. But looking at this, I'm glad they keep taking a shot at it, because they might be able to get it. And I feel like arcade sports is right where arcade racing was a few years ago, where it's like, no one's making any of these. If someone just made a couple, and now suddenly we have 5 or 6 arcade racers that are worth paying attention to, I think arcade sports could do the exact same. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm desperate to get these back and rolling again, because I think I've talked about this before, because like I don't have a super intense love of sports games. There aren't many sports I actually enjoy watching or playing as well. Basketball is probably the only one. But I do love these kind of exaggerated sports games, and I miss having them. Like I used to play Blitz, and I used to play NBA Jam was my favorite, obviously. The original arcade one was a great time, and then there was that NBA Jam that got released for like the Xbox 360, PS3, Wii era. That was so good, man. I love playing that game. So I played that game so much, I'm like super sad that we don't have more of those, but it is good to see someone taking a crack at it. I think what's more interesting is like it's good to see someone who isn't EA or 2K take a crack at it.
Yes, for real.
Yeah, so like I'm glad that there are third party or like even smaller developers, publishers that are trying their best. And I hope that it does lead for more attempts at it, at the very least. And hopefully that also means that Colin Kaepernick being involved in this one is a pretty big deal. It doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't look like the NFL license is involved.
No, that's exactly right. So you get the NFLPA, the NFL Players Association license. That's where they're getting the names from and the likenesses. But they are not working with the NFL proper. So no team names, no stadiums, no logos, anything like that.
Yeah. So my hope, it's really annoying, but I wish that organizations like the NFL, the NBA would support more, like democratize their license a bit more. I know that's not how it works, and it is, it's people pay big money for licensing deals for around this stuff, but like I want to see indie developers or smaller developers take cracks at this and do enough good work with it that a company like the NFL or the NBA could be like, hey, maybe we should work with this team. It's small, and carve out a niche for them where like they're not allowed to make the simulation games, which are the ones that people really care about, where the licenses are and that kind of stuff. But they can make these smaller, quirkier 3-on-3 or like arcade style games and let them roll with it. I feel like it just helps the economy and like the community of these types of sports games way more. Like I don't really care about NFL stuff. Like I definitely don't care about NFL games, but I'm probably going to play this just because it feels like a game that I'll enjoy.
Yeah, and it's I think you're right about it helping sort of the overall system of people getting into these sports or playing these kinds of games, and it's EA is just not going to clearly is not going to come in and make these kinds of games. I know 2K has this initiative right now of making more arcadey stuff, but that is like, hey, we're making arcadey stuff for kids, and that led them to Lego 2K Drive, and they have a soccer game, a Lego 2K Goal game happening. We reported that a little bit ago, and it's like that is that okay. I'll wait and see, but I think there's clearly a space for these smaller teams to come up from the bottom and to make indie-based arcade sports games and have a chance. And I say that I know the history of also like the attempts to revive Mutant League football, and everyone gets like, hey, bring back Mutant League football, and they try to bring it back, and no one actually ends up caring all that much. I hope that usually comes down to like actually when people played the game, it wasn't what they remembered or what they wanted. I hope that if someone delivers a game that is as good as a Blitz or a Jam or an NBA Street Volume 2, that people would show up no matter where it came from, and kind of no matter like even if it just has like the player licenses, I think that would be fine too. So I'm hopeful. I think we clearly are entering a period where relying on these big publishers to make the kinds of games that we used to get is a fool's errand. We're not going to get that from them anymore. So hopefully these smaller teams can execute.
It seems like the strategy here could be one worth adopting. I know it's probably trickier. I know Colin Kaepernick's in a bit of a unique situation, but like approaching specific teams or players and getting them as a license feels like a good way to find that middle ground between people who don't care and people who are interested and need some sort of involvement to legitimize it. Like we might not be able to get NBA Jam, but if a developer that is good at making that kind of game can do like LeBron Jam or something like that, or like Steph Curry Jam or something like that, maybe that's the way like we find that kind of middle ground, and I'd love to see that happening.
Yeah, me too. I know Danny Pena sat down with Colin Kaepernick, talked to him about it, and played the game with him. Yeah. Seemed to be enjoying himself. Seemed to be having a pretty good time. Yeah. And I think
man,
go ahead.
That Xbox 360 era NBA Jam, it let you play like, I think it was Obama, like Republicans versus Democrats, and like I thought that was the funniest shit at the time.
They used to have like Bill Clinton in there. The idea, but for some reason, the idea of Barack Obama in NBA Jam is really funny to me. Like
it was good, and I think Biden was on the team as well, and there was various other people, and imagine that in this day and age. Like we're getting some wild NBA Jam players.
Robert Kennedy Jr. just goes in there and just yelling at people. Yeah, okay, no, you're right.
Wheezing his way through a basketball
up the court. Jesus Christ. All right. Yeah. Moving on, Baldur's Gate 3 will launch 4 weeks early on PC, delayed on PS5. This comes from Mike Mahardy at Polygon. Baldur's Gate 3 developer Larian Studios role-playing, which is the Larian Studios role-playing game set in the Dungeons & Dragons universe, is coming sooner than expected on Windows PC, but later than planned on PlayStation 5. In an effort to further distance the game from the busy fall 2023 release schedule, Larian will now launch Baldur's Gate 3 on August 3rd on PC, as opposed to the anticipated August 31st release date. The PS5 version, however, will be released 1 week later than originally planned on September 6th. There's still no word about the in-progress Xbox version. There's a little bit of an update there, but this is a good idea, I think, for this game to get out of the way of Starfield on PC, right?
Yes, that's exactly why. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that their stated goal?
I,
Unless I misread it, but I think like,
I think
it,
they definitely mentioned that. Yes, when
yeah,
asked about it, they were like, "Yep, very quickly. We're mostly putting these out as we finish them." So like
yeah.
that's part of why there's a staggered release. But if we could put them all out, before Starfield, that's what we would be doing. Like that's clearly what we'd be doing.
Yeah. I think it's smart. Like, also, I think it's very transparent of them. So good on them to
Yep.
be like, yeah, we're just getting out of the way of this fucking huge game that everyone's gonna gobble up interest. Is gonna gobble up interest, especially given the amount of what it seems like effort that has been put into Baldur's Gate 3. I played it when it first went into early access, and it was already super, super solid and super, super compelling.
And it's been
And
years now, right? Like
yeah, it's been a really long time. Like I lived in a different part of the Bay Area when that first came out, and I remember playing it and thinking, "This is already great. I'm going to leave it for a little bit. They'll probably take a few months to patch it up and add some extra content, and it'll be rock solid." Years later, I'm extremely excited to play it, and like, there's been stuff going around where it's got like 160 hours of like cinematics or cutscenes that are voiced and properly acted. I'm just like, damn, that sounds like it is a all-consuming game. And I think it's very smart of them to like really sit down and go like, hey, we just put in a lot of time, effort, and money into this game. Are we sure we want to release it around Starfield?
Yep.
Which is just gonna suck up the air whether we like it or not.
It is also interesting that it got out of the way of Starfield on PC. On PlayStation 5, it is coming out September 6th, literally the day that Starfield launches. That's not the early launch, but that is like the official launch for Starfield. That is counter programming. There is no Starfield on PlayStation 5, so that's also kind of beneficial to it as well, right?
Yeah, and also like I feel like word of mouth by then will have done a pretty good job of telling people whether it's worth paying attention to, regardless of Starfield or not. To the people who are on PlayStation will be in that kind of space where they're like, "Oh, I don't have Starfield, but everything I hear about this Baldur's Gate 3 is either is good, or bad, depending on, hopefully it's good." And then they go, "All right, well, I'll just pick that up instead. Seems like it's popping off, and I like it." And now I'm going to go onto the internet and tell people how Starfield sucks and Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing and ignite fanboy wars.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful cycle of life that we exist in. The Xbox version is something that they keep saying that they are working on. It was nice. They were pretty candid. So just going back to, we're getting these things done in the order that we can get them done in, because we are actually just more versed in finishing PS5 games. And so that was easy to do. And it's going to take us a little bit more time to get familiar with Xbox and get that done. And it's like, okay, that's fair. They did note that the Xbox, this is a lot, we'll just do it now. That the Xbox Series S might cause some issues. There's a policy on Xbox that you can have different graphics settings for the Xbox Series S and X, of course. You can't have different gameplay features. And there's one gameplay feature in Baldur's Gate 3, the split screen co-op, that is causing them issues for performance on Xbox Series S, to the point where they're like, we're not certain right now if we're going to be able to get that to run properly. But we cannot just take that out of the Series S version. We'd have to take it out of both so that we have parity between S and X. So that's like one of the big hurdles they're trying to overcome right now. The Series S is mostly a fine machine. It's that RAM, that just not enough memory in that thing, and that's kind of seems to be hurting split screen co-op here.
Do you think that we'll start to see more of this happening? Not in this specific split screen context, but like, do you think the gulf between what developers are able to do on X versus S is going to continue to grow to a point where people are just going to be like, "Oh, we can't really do it"?
Yeah.
And how do you think Microsoft responds to that?
Yeah, I think like Microsoft needs to respond, right? That's the big thing. Like, they need to be providing support. This is their policy. These are their hardware. They should be providing answers to these issues that as they arise. I do think it will pop up more, mostly for the, in most cases, these two systems scale correctly. So if you have a game that runs really well on Xbox Series X, you turn down the resolution and it's going to run really well on the Xbox Series S. It should be that simple. There is going to be, as these games get more ingrained in this generation and actually take advantage of this hardware, they are going to more frequently bump into situations like this, where it's like a specific thing you do with the game actually is pushing the Series S too much, and what are we going to do there? And there's no really good answer. So yeah, I do think it's going to be more of a problem. I don't think it's going to be widespread, not every game, but there will be definitely cases every couple of months that we're going to hear that are going to be just like this.
Yeah, I do love the Series S, but also I think I agree it's going to start happening way more.
Yeah, and this is again, a little unfair. Not our problem. Like, developers just need to figure it out at a certain point. I also really like the S. I think it's I have it connected usually to the TV upstairs. The kids play on it all the time. But really, it's Microsoft's issue. And they announced a revised Xbox Series S, and it was like more storage, a little bit higher price. No changes to the internals, though, so there's not like an S Pro or something.
Yeah.
They are sticking with that S for a while, it seems like.
Yeah.
All right. Sega has no intention of being acquired, says COO after Microsoft revelation. This comes from George Yang at GameSpot. Despite Microsoft's recently revealed interest in acquiring it in the last few years, Sega has no intention of being acquired at the moment. That's according to Chief Operating Officer Shuji Utsumi. In an interview with Bloomberg, Utsumi was asked about the possibility of being acquired by another company. To that, he answered, "No, not now." However, he declined to answer whether Microsoft approached Sega with a formal acquisition offer. "We are very close with Microsoft and have a great relationship with its management team," Utsumi continued. "Microsoft particularly has a high regard for us. Xbox's Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond are really serious about values that video game fans emphasize." The filings from the FTC versus Microsoft case revealed that in 2020, Microsoft considered acquiring Sega in order to bolster its Game Pass subscription service. Some other companies under consideration were Niantic and Square Enix, along with like Bungie and IO Interactive and a million more. Tam, this is something that, of course, Microsoft talks about buying everyone at some point. Sega and Microsoft do seem to have a pretty close relationship, though. Yeah. I think. Go ahead.
This feels like Sega going, "Oh, we don't want to be bought anyway, so who cares?
We didn't want to go to that party. I didn't want to be invited anyhow.
I don't care."
Yeah.
But I mean, like, also, it seems very plausible that Sega's like, "No, of course not. We don't want to do that." Because, like, right now, I think Sega is in a position that it's weird. It's going to sound quite dismissive and a bit shitty, but if you really think about it, I feel like this is the best that Sega has ever been since the console days. Like, maybe even Mega Drive Genesis days. Like, their franchises are like focused and popping off. Like, all the games that in their core franchises are doing pretty well. They have Yakuza, they have Persona, SMT. They've got a bunch of spin-off titles again.
PC Sonic gaming for them is doing really well.
PC gaming is doing well. Sonic is doing well. Still a bit hit and miss, not as consistent as you'd hope.
Sure.
But they have a bunch of good Sonic games already on the market. And like, also the Sonic movie is huge. Total War is doing really, really well. I think they had the Warhammer, like, Total War stuff going on as well. And it feels like also the marketing and the cultural kind of penetration of their franchises is way better now than it has been in a really long time. They're in the discussion. They're top of mind for a lot of people. Like, I think they're good right now. And I feel like it would be in their, from their perspective, a bit short-sighted, and it would be like kind of giving away a good position by just being like, "Yeah, we're gonna get acquired now."
I think you're right. I think it would be like Capcom getting acquired before its resurgence. I think that the Sega is on the upswing. I think you're right, and I think it's it also is in a strong enough position that it makes it really hard to visualize what a transition to being under something like an Xbox looks like. Do a lot of those games go exclusive? I know there was a part of the documentation says they would probably not make those Sega things exclusive if Microsoft acquired them. It's like, okay, that's fine. I could see that, but then, like, how does that? It's not a Call of Duty. It's nothing like that. But it's hard to imagine how Sega would have fit into that structure of a Microsoft gaming. So it's like, maybe it's better off if you can't like have a very simple answer of here's how it helps Microsoft, here's how it helps Sega, and here's how it's good for gamers. It probably was a good one to pass on and to let Sega keep operating the way it has been and figure stuff out. I think that the the years where Sega was putting out bad Sonics and was like, and when Atlas was like, yeah, we don't really know about putting Persona on other stuff. Does that make sense? Should we do that? And people screaming at them for years to do that. And then finally now they're there, and it seems like Persona games are just going to launch on everything going forward. And like you said, Yakuza, just like clearly they have a model that's working, and they are on their way to being like this other Capcom in Japan. So yeah, that's I think you're right that it's something that they probably made the right choice if they were offered something and said no, and now to continue to be like, no, not now. That seems right.
Yeah. There's something to dig into, like around the resurgence of Japanese developer publishers again. Like there was a period when they, outside of maybe a couple here and there, kind of fell off in a major way, and it seems like they're popping again.
Yeah.
In a big bad way, which is exciting and really heartening for me, especially that as someone who loves a lot of those Japanese companies.
Yep. It's I think that there was that period when HD gaming was first happening, and they were kind of like figuring stuff out, and then like the games kept getting bigger and more expensive, and at the same time Japan was like going all in on mobile devices. It was very easy for people in charge over there to be like, well, wait, what are we doing? Are we spending money in the right way? Do we need to be learning all this new stuff on these consoles? And it was just like a momentary misstep, and then since then it's just been Japanese talent proving its value in the gaming space repeatedly over and over. And yes, I'm also very encouraged by it.
Yeah.
All right. Xbox Game Pass has been, quote, nothing but positive despite Sony boss's claim, Dev says. This comes from Evan Campbell at GameSpot. There are developers out there who like Xbox Game Pass, even if head honcho at PlayStation says otherwise. Case in point, Miles Jacobson, who oversees the Football Manager franchise at Sports Interactive, spoke out in favor of Microsoft's subscription service. Eurogamer asked the studio head at Sports Interactive about PlayStation president Jim Ryan's assertion that other publishers dislike Xbox Game Pass. Every studio is going to have different opinions on this, and different studios will have different data because different games work well in different situations, Jacobson said. For us, it's nothing but positive on all three platforms. Jacobson added that as a Sega-owned studio, they run quite a tight ship, so Sports Interactive doesn't tend to do deals that are bad for any parts of the business. For those curious, Football Manager 2023 became a part of the Xbox Game Pass lineup in November. Ryan's comments about Xbox Game Pass came as part of the FTC Microsoft trial that led to all sorts of revelations. For example, Ryan apparently didn't think Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard was about Call of Duty exclusivity, saying as much in a 2022 email, so on, so forth, blah, blah, blah. Tam, I'm mostly wondering, like, we asked Phil, like, kind of, when we talked to him on the couch in so many words about, hey, how are third-party publishers feeling about this? And I think he was responding to you, and he was just like, the best example we have here is that when we have a partner that puts something in Game Pass, they come back for repeat business. They bring another game and another game, and that's true. You see a lot of these publishers have had 4 or 5 games in Game Pass, and they keep coming back for more. And I do think that's a good sign. I also, at the same time, Tam, believe Jim Ryan that most publishers are skeptical of Game Pass, or at least have been in the past. What do you think?
I mean, like, it comes from a lack of transparency around the terms and kind of benefits of it and detriments of it, right? Like, I'm like, people don't really talk about what Game Pass, the terms are, like what they get out of it.
It does not seem like they're allowed. Never had a chance to ask. It's
and like
locked down
to the point where it feels like they're under NDAs and stuff, which is, you've had a few developers here and there go rogue or just be like, I'm not really affiliated with X, Y, and Z anymore, so I'm just going to say it. But I feel like a lot of the kind of skepticism does come from the fact that there's no real transparency in that stuff. And I have to guess it's because, not all Game Pass content providers are treated equal, and you don't want to be in a situation where you give one company a set of kind of terms that is very different from another company, which is probably why they're not telling everyone and allowing everyone to talk to each other very openly. But I think, I think the reason why people are skeptical is because they just don't know. Like, they don't know what Game Pass they're going to get. Are they going to get a Game Pass that is consistent? Like, if there was like an ability to look at the data for developers and be like, oh shit, this is like what an average that we can kind of work with, that we're likely to be able to reap the benefits of this is what we put in and likely will get out, I think there'll be less skepticism around it. And like that is probably what's fueling a lot of that skepticism. And the people that come back are probably the people who either get a good deal or see the performance that they want to see when they jump on, even if it's not an amazing deal, you know.
Yep.
Because it does definitely raise kind of the outlook for a lot of smaller independent developers for sure. And we've had independent developers come out and without revealing too much details just be like, it was really great for us.
And I'm going to put every one of my games in there. Mike Rose from No More Robots or something. I can't remember the name of the studio. Sorry.
Exactly.
I'm putting every game in Game Pass.
Yeah. And like we've heard a decent amount of stories where it's positive. Major developers are less transparent around that stuff. And it kind of makes you think we're hearing a lot of good stuff. We don't hear a lot of like not bad, but like, hey, actually, it just didn't quite work for me, which is like suspicious as well. It's like,
right. Then that's where it's like I think most publishers probably do believe that this will ruin the value of the perceived value of their games. I think that clearly though that's softening at the same time. Exoprimal is going to. I think a multiplayer game makes a lot of sense, but that's why Path of Goddess is the one that surprised me from the Summer Game Fest. As being a Capcom new IP, single player focused, seemingly, action, an actual character action game, looks very cool. That's going to be day one Game Pass, and that's from Capcom, a publisher that clearly knows what it's doing, clearly knows how to turn games into successes right now. So them showing up for that, it's like I think that's encouraging for Game Pass. It probably shows that they are winning the hearts and minds there. Yeah, at the same time, though, I think you're right that the majority of publishers, big publishers, are still giving it the side eye and aren't ready to change things up. I mean, Bobby Kotick was on the stand saying, like he's like, I disagree with the idea of a multi-game subscription service, like flat out. Like, I don't think that makes sense. And it's like, well, of course he doesn't. He sells Call of Duty for $70 every year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I that's one of the questions I wish we had asked when we had Big Phil is like, what is the deal with transparency around terms on this kind of stuff? Like, why aren't you telling us? When will we get to a point where you will tell us like what's going on? Because I think one of the main discussions has always been, is this good for developers? And are we, because I'm optimistic in that I think that if the gaming audience at large found out that it's not good for developers, a decent chunk of them will be like, I'm gonna not do this and I'm gonna go back to buying games.
It would be a poison pill, right? It would it would taint the whole thing. I'm sure, like you said it already, that his answer would be, oh, we don't want to like open that what our negotiations look like, because it's like we do have different terms with different studios depending on what we perceive the value of the thing being, and we don't want to like ruin that. But it's like, that's maybe a little bit of that is like kind of too bad for you. We might need a little bit more detail at some point.
And to be clear, this is not just Microsoft. Like PlayStation Plus, we're not 100% sure what's going on there either.
Or like even like just publishing an indie game on PlayStation, which was really tough for a couple of years there. Why is that process so troublesome? Give us some details about that. That's a black box entirely.
I mean, I think like general more transparency around the terms and like at least telling us or showing us in whatever ways and data points that are safe and good to you, whether it's actually good for these developers, would go a long way. I think Epic might do it. I think Epic is fairly open with their splits and that kind of stuff. They needed to be, because they were the new kid on the block and they were trying to gather a lot of people and attention and bring them to them. But I think generally it would just be a good policy for a lot of people. Like, figure out a way to tell us the thing that we want to hear without, revealing the specific numbers that will get you in trouble or whatever.
Yep.
At the very least, allow developers to be like, hey, it's not quite good for us, or it is good for us. Here's why. Or here's a situation where you should support me on Game Pass.
Yep. 100%. Steam might be banning games that are made with AI art. This comes from Ashley Barden at Kotaku. Valve seems to be blocking video games created with AI-generated assets from being published on its online storefront Steam. A Reddit post from earlier this month, first noticed by Game Discover co-founder Simon Carless, that's a Substack people could subscribe to, it's pretty good, includes a message from Valve explaining that it cannot ship games for which the developer does not have all the necessary rights. On June 29th, another Redditor wrote that Steam denied their game for utilizing AI tech. The first developer that posted the message said that they initially tried to release their game with a few assets that were fairly obviously AI generated. My plan was to just submit a rougher version of the game and to improve them prior to actually releasing the game, as I wasn't aware Steam had any issue with AI generated art, they wrote. Though Steam's rules for developer submissions don't explicitly ban AI-made content the way they deny games made on the blockchain, the company does note that the content you don't own or have adequate rights to is not allowed. And that is, Tam, that's the key issue here, is that Valve is saying, hey, if you are using publicly trained models, you cannot guarantee that you own the copyright to the material that is based on, and we do not want to be on the hook for you doing that. So you need to be able to guarantee us that either you aren't using publicly or AI models trained on publicly available data from people's other copyrighted work, or you owned all the material that trained the AI model, which is something that a lot of companies probably will end up doing, and that makes some sense. But yeah, I think that's completely fair and not surprising, and it's a good position that Steam's taking, right?
Yeah, it is there's nuanced discussion, but I am very bullish on saying fuck AI. Like
Yep.
I am still at that phase where I'm unwilling to hear the pros for AI, where it's like, oh, this is actually good. If you think right now I don't care.
I'm in the same boat where it's like it's hard to even think about. Yep.
I don't give a shit right now. And people are going to be like, oh, what a surprise. You're saying fuck AI, but like, I keep just seeing the worst shit happening with it, man. And
I mean, it's already ruining
biased.
the internet.
Yeah, it's ruining the internet. Like I mean, we had people in our field of writing about games the other day, like a little recently actually, be laid off and then replaced by AI robots who
that's happening. Chris Moyes over Destructoid.
Yeah,
yep.
They've been proven. AI has been proven to be shit at this, like be terrible at this.
And to speak of like Poison Pill, like it makes me not trust most of the stuff I've begun seeing. I think last night I was playing Only Up for a little bit. I'll play that on UPF today, everybody. It's a fun time. But I was trying to get the controller to work, and I'm like, I don't know if the controller works. And I was with Turbo Sean, who does some social stuff for us. And he started Googling. He's like, man, the internet. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I see like 5 or 6 stories about this, but I think all of them are AI generated, and they're all pulling from each other. And it's and so there's no actual answer in these stories that is specifically being targeted to answer a question that you're asking. And oh boy, that is so frustrating. We're at the end of useful internet. I can't remember what that story was, but yeah.
It is what Kojima said in Metal Gear Solid 2.
It is.
It's just junk data. Like
Junk
it's just
data.
junk data being fucking just generated and filling up everything right now, and it is infuriating. And like I think it's well within Steam and Valve's right to just be as harsh as possible in this scenario, because ultimately, like, there's so many vectors and points where it could get them in trouble. So like taking the most stern, the harshest approach to it is probably a smart thing to do. They don't know what angle they could get fucked by like copyright or like an artist being ripped off or whatever it may be. So just being like, if you're working with AI, we're gonna penalize you pretty hard. Like we're gonna come at you because we're just not equipped to deal with this nonsense right now, and very few companies are. So I'm all for it.
Yep,
do it.
Yep, it's I know cynically the long run is if you are not taking advantage of this stuff, someone else will, and they'll beat you to it, and they'll make more money, and they'll be more profitable. But I'm with Tam on this, where it's like, I think like hearing any of the here's how it's going to benefit us right now, like when we know there's no safety net for so much of what people are doing that will be replaced by this, it is just frustrating and it kind of makes me upset in my tummy. All right, real quick breaking story. Daedalic Entertainment gives up internal game development at the Hamburg location and is going to focus on publishing only. Gollum 2 has been discontinued. We did it. No. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No. God. It was so close to a good Gollum game. We were like this close. We were like this close.
Yeah, here, I'll hold my hand out. You hold your hand out. You hold one hand up, and I'll hold my other hand up. We were this close.
Oh, we were this close. Oh, my God.
I think that was the right direction. I think you're in that that way. So this Marino just put this in chat. This is a breaking story. I don't have the full details, but Gollum was a financial likely disaster. I remember a couple days after it came out and all the reviews were there. There was a store somewhere that had the salesman from The Simpsons and it had like 50 copies of Gollum below it, and he's like, it's $39.99. How many do you want? How many should I put it down for? A lot. Can I say a lot? He just looks so desperate, and it's like, yeah, nope, not happening.
Oh, Gil.
Oh yeah, exactly, Gil. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, this is kind of what happens when you put out a game like Gollum, right?
I mean, fair play to them for looking at that and going, yeah, we gotta cancel that second one.
We gotta get out of this business.
Yeah, there's some developers or publishers that would have been like, keep the train rolling, baby. But I do wonder how much a license holder got involved and was like, you can't be trusted with this. Please return that immediately.
What, Embracer Group showed up and be like, we care about quality. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe, yeah.
It's unfortunate. Like, it means, downsizing is never good. It's gonna result in people probably like being shifted around, losing their jobs, and that sucks. But like, I mean, like, you probably shouldn't make another one of these games, man.
Fair enough. Dr. Mike FLC's in chat says that was a Photoshop. Doesn't matter. Still made me laugh. It's still, it's true.
Oh, you mean it wasn't the real Gil?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
If it's not factual, it's still true. Gil is always important to me. All right. Pokemon Go dev cancels Marvel game and lays off 230 people. This comes from Eddie McHugh at GameSpot. Pokemon Go developer Niantic has become the latest major game studio to announce serious layoffs and other significant changes. The company's boss, John Hanke, notified staffers of a drastic change to the company's organization and outlook that includes layoffs, a studio closure, and game cancellations. Niantic is closing its Los Angeles studio and making cuts to company's headcounts at other offices. Additionally, NBA All World is going offline, and the upcoming Marvel World of Heroes is now canceled. In total, Niantic is cutting about 230 jobs. This felt like it was coming. We know that no one's playing Pikmin Bloom, I don't think. I like Pikmin Bloom, but I just can't imagine a ton of people are playing it. I know there's a handful of other games that they have ongoing, and then Pokemon Go is, I'm sure, still making a lot of money. But there have been those stories about it's not making nearly as much money as it used to, and that was paying for the whole party, right?
Yeah. I mean, Niantic feels like they're in a Telltale situation where they had a big hit, and they just like put the cart before the horse and just let it go down the hill and pick up way too much momentum. And by the time it was like, they started to notice that shit wasn't popping off, they were like, uh-oh. And I think like they really, really like overreached, which is a shame because like it's probably not the people who are getting laid off that made the decision to do these overreaches. It is the people who are higher up that are just seeing money bags and dollar signs that are like, we have to make an NBA game. We have to make a Hogwarts game. We have to make a...
Yeah, because we have a studio in Los Angeles to work with all these companies that are out there with IP.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I truly feel like it was a mixture of short-sightedness and a little bit of greed that resulted in people who are not responsible for that bearing the brunt of the consequences, and the people who made those decisions will probably continue to be absolutely fine because they're senior enough executives where it's like, hey, doesn't really hurt me. And it's such a shame. It is. I don't mean to be rude, but like I could have told you that most of these games were going to be shit and no one cares about. Like Pokemon was I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but like it's important to recognize when you've captured lightning. Yeah, and you've captured lightning in a bottle through a mixture of luck, skill, and just sheer fucking like circumstance. And that is exactly what Pokemon Go was. Like Pokemon Go is fantastic, but you need to take a step back and look at how it happened and admit to yourself that it wasn't just because you had a great idea. Yep. It was because
you had that idea before, though I can't remember the name of the game right now, but it was based on Pokemon Go.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember what it's called.
But it's like, I think that should have been your level of expectation. If it's not Pokemon, it's going to be more closer to the first game, Ingress.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, exactly. And like, let's not forget, it's Pokemon, one of the biggest properties, most recognizable properties in the world. It came out and like was, you know, before the pandemic, but the pandemic, you know, was a something that, and it came out when people were starting to move around way more, and you know, mobile travel and data and that kind of stuff really helped it in a major way. And like it also like just the Pokemon IP and the company around it was also raising its prominence and like its fortunes in a major way, where it kind of they got some of the fallout or the benefits of that.
Yep.
And like I just like Pokemon, even as much as I played it, Pokemon Go, the core of Pokemon Go wasn't particularly great. Like it was kind of boring in a lot of ways, and it was community that really pushed it through. And like they made some changes to the game that definitely improved it. But I never opened the Pokemon Go app and was excited for it. Like it was the things that intrigued me and kept me coming back, and I know kept people coming back, is the fact that it tied into the core fundamental mechanics and ideas of Pokemon itself. The collection, the fantasy of being a trainer and trading and occasionally battling.
And pasting that stuff on the real world is magical, but because it's Pokemon.
It's fantastic. But like, how do you apply that same design principle and those same design hopes and get the same for the NBA?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
Or like
there's no
Ghostbusters is another one they did, right? Or maybe someone else did a
like,
Ghostbusters one. But yeah, of course it didn't work the same way.
You're like, I again, not to be rude, but Niantic should have stepped back and gone like, we got really lucky with this, and we also worked hard to get it where it is. Let's focus on this. Let's make sure this is the best that can be. Instead, what they did was like, we are so smart. We're gonna do this for everything, and it's blowing up in their face now.
The Telltale analogy is just perfect. That was really a really good poll. I think that's exactly what happened. And Pokemon Go is not going to go anywhere. It does make a ton of money. So if that's your game, that'll continue to chug along. It is it's probably right for them to rescale to be a studio that makes Pokemon Go and keeps that viable. You know, it's like that endless growth that they have to have is the thing that really kind of drives them to make those kinds of decisions, and clearly that was the wrong play. All right, we have a poll question from yesterday. Let's bring it in here. Which game should Rockstar remaster to bring back next? This followed the news that there was a rating for Red Dead Redemption.
Tennis.
I didn't put table tennis on there because I thought it would, of course, win.
Unbelievable.
Listen, that's the one I want the most, Tam, for real. But 17% want Smuggler's Run, 16% want State of Emergency, 20% want Space Station Silicon Valley, and 48% want Manhunt. I should have known Manhunt.
You didn't put Bully on there? You didn't put Bully on there?
Bully would have been like 95% if Bully was on there. So that's why I didn't put Bully on there. But also, I just wanted to make more room for State of Emergency. Well, of course. And Smuggler's Run.
I would like to say for the record,
yes,
and this might get me canceled. This might get me my credibility shot. Sometimes, you know, you just have to say it. And I am going to be the person who says it. Okay? State of Emergency is ass, and it always has been ass.
He said it, everybody.
Sucks.
It does fucking suck. It sucks so bad.
It's a terrible game, and you should be embarrassed if you're into it.
Man, watch out, Toes. He's dropping truth. Look out, everybody.
Damn, me and Roseanne Barr just getting absolutely mauled by the internet this week.
State of Emergency is whack. It's bad. It was never good. Man, I remember because it came out after Grand Theft Auto 3, and so it was on all these magazine covers like this is the follow-up, and then the world showed up, and it was not worth our time. All right, I got a new poll question that is going to go up on youtube.com/giantbomb/community, that community tab over there. We'll get to it on Wednesday because we have a long weekend here over at Giant Bomb for the July 4th holiday.
There will not be a Game Mess Mornings on Monday. Jeff Grubb keeps trying to do a Game Mess Mornings. I have forbidden him from doing it.
Me.
No Game Mess Mornings on Monday, okay?
Yes.
Just enjoy the day off.
Okay, I'm going to do it. I promise I'll take the day off.
Go and play with the gimmicks.
I'm going to go play with the gimmicks, everybody. The new poll question is, do you play sports games? Your options are: I play sports games, I play I play sports sims, excuse me. I play arcade sports, I play both, and I don't play sports games. Just kind of want to take your temperature, everybody. That'll be up there, like I said, on YouTube. You can vote there. We'll get back to it on Wednesday. In the meantime, though, Tam, what do you got going on? What should we tell people about?
Oh, mate, you know what's going on? a lot of things. We're gonna do UPF later
we are.
today, and I'm very excited for that. I'm gonna be hanging out with you guys on that. We're gonna be playing.
Have you seen that Only Up game?
Oh yes, I am very aware of. Have you played it or seen it?
I played it last night for the first time, and
It's a nightmare.
Yes,
it is. It is infuriating.
It is my exact kind of nightmare. I'm
Yeah,
so
it is-
into it. It's like really
It
messed
is
up.
wild. I'm
yeah,
excited to see it. It's one of those games where like sometimes you play a game that is not supposed to be annoying, and you're like, "What are the fucking collision boxes on this fucking game?" That is the entire game.
Jan, that's a good idea. We could race.
That is the entire game.
Yes, listen, Jan, if you get it, I will race. That would be a nightmare because it's going to be so stressful. But I absolutely am into that idea. Yeah, Grand Pooh Bear's been speedrunning it. That's what actually got me into it. I saw his TikTok where he said he lost 6.5 hours of progress falling down. I'm like, wait, how is that even possible?
This is one of those games which Kojima dreamed about, where like once you play it once and you die,
and it blows up.
It blows up. Like for me, that's how I treat it. Like,
I mean, if I lost 6.5 hours of progress, I am putting it down forever.
I am treating that. I'm treating that PC like a Republican treats a Bud Light can, and just and shoots that shit up
and screaming at it. Yes. All right, that's what's happening on Giant Bomb. We'll have more. Tune in for UPF later. You guys had a new episode go up of your show, right?
We got Spot On going up today, and it is about when games are announced. Because we've had this recently, we had the whole initiative Perfect Dark. It's still very early in development, and we discussed whether it's a good idea or bad idea to announce the game before you're absolutely certain that it's gonna come out and exactly when it comes out. And we talk about some of the criteria of why people do it, why developers and publishers do it, when it's a good idea to do it, when it's a bad idea to do it, and kind of have some fun with that as well. So it was a pretty enjoyable episode, I think. So I think if you can watch it, please do show it some love. That's how we can get to continue making it.
It's on GameSpot.com right now, everybody. Check that out. Of course, it's also on YouTube and all that stuff. Yeah. All right, Tim, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about the Dregs, man. You know I appreciate it.
I love Dregs Day, and I love you, Jeff Grubb, and I love everyone in our community.
You're the best audience in gaming. Tam's right. Until next time, have a good one, everybody. Take care of yourself. Goodbye. Have a safe 4th of July if you're in the United States. And watch out for your American friends if you are outside the United States. Bye, everybody. All right. Hot